Amazing reveal. CO's stunned as his daughter's unexpected Mandarin response transforms everything. The stage lights glared down on Jordan Harris as he paced the polished floor of the conference room, anticipation thrumming through the air like static electricity. All eyes were on him, some brimming with hope, others sharp with skepticism. Today was meant to be a celebration of his innovations, a launch that would cement him as the titan of Silicon Valley. Yet, deep down, a gnawing anxiety bubbled beneath his suave exterior. He had poured everything into this product, neglecting the little things: the meetings canceled with his daughter, the missed soccer games, the birthdays he had forgetfully brushed aside. What did any of it mean in the face of his success? Jordan could almost hear Mia's laughter in the echoes of the past, a ghost haunting the shadows of his victory. She was bright, brilliant even. Yet somehow, in the white-hot pursuit of profit, he had missed the fact that his singular focus had cast a shadow over her brilliance. What would he say to her if she were here watching? The truth was, he was terrified, afraid that, like him, she would measure her worth through metrics of success. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, and Jordan's mind raced. When he learned a crucial Mandarin-speaking partner would be attending, anxiety spread like wildfire. He clenched and unclenched his fists, his polished facade beginning to fray. What if he faltered? What if this moment of greatness, his crowning achievement, was disrupted by his linguistic shortcomings? He should be prepared better. The pressure felt like an anvil pressing down on his chest. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mia entered the room quietly, hesitating in the doorway before taking a deep breath and stepping inside. He felt an unsettling mix of pride and guilt wash over him. Why hadn't he made time to notice her passion for languages, her talent? As he delivered his pitch, he watched her from the corner of his eye, hope and longing stretching across her face. As he stumbled over a technical term in Mandarin, an eerie silence settled over the audience. His heart raced. Then it happened. Mia stepped forward, confidence emanating from her as she delivered a flawless answer in Mandarin. The applause that erupted was as shocking to him as it was awe-inspiring to the audience. Stunned, he searched her face, feeling the weight of years spent in his corporate bubble crushing any sense of joy. Once the noise subsided, the look in her eyes pierced through him. She wasn't just a daughter lost in his shadow. She was a young woman seeking the affirmation he had so often denied her. All those languages I've learned you never asked, Dad. She confronted him later, voice quivering yet resolute. You chase accolades while I've been waiting for you to see me. The emotional chasm that stretched between them clawed at Jordan's insides, a visceral ache rising in his chest as he tried to redirect the conversation back to the presentation. But Mia's words hung heavily in the air, and his mind raced. He stood on a precipice, the battle between corporate ambition and familial love raging within him like a fierce storm. What mattered more, his career or his daughter? If he embraced her, would that mean sacrificing the empire he had built? The stakes had escalated, binding them both in a conflict far more complex than profit margins and shareholder sentiments. The room felt tighter, an unbearable weight forming as he stared into her expectant eyes. Could he shift his focus? Would he finally dare to step away from the corporate ladder and confront his priorities, his daughter's unspoken plea for connection? The air buzzed with unresolved tension, each heartbeat amplifying the silent question. Could he bridge the divide that had grown between them? Jordan's mind raced, a whirlwind of emotion clouding his judgment. In that moment, he felt utterly exposed. The conference room, once a space of triumph, now felt like a cage, each eye upon him weighing him down with unspoken expectations. He swallowed hard, seeking clarity through the chaos swirling within. Mia's voice echoed in his head, a stark contrast to the polished words he had practiced for this moment. "You chase accolades while I've been waiting." Her disappointment clawed at his insides, a painful reminder that his success had come at a steep cost. As the applause faded and the audience settled into a palpable rhythm of anticipation, he realized the world he had fought to create felt hollow without her by his side. In that instant, Jordan understood something profound. Success was not merely recorded in quarterly earnings or market shares. It also overlapped with relationships, connections, and love. His view had long been distorted by ambition. He had let the metrics define his existence, and in doing so, had forgotten to nourish the human aspect of his life. He knew the path ahead demanded more than just business acumen. It required him to confront the emotional landscape he had neglected. He watched Mia standing resolute, a young woman who had cultivated her talents despite the shadows cast by his constant pursuit of success. For a brief moment, he hesitated, battling the instinct to retreat into his corporate armor. But then he made a decision. He would no longer evade vulnerability. "Mia," he began, the weight of his words heavy on his tongue. "I want to know everything about your passion for languages, your dreams." He paused, finding his breath. "I want to reconnect with you." The silence stretched between them, as the audience held its collective breath, uncertainty hanging in the air. Jordan sensed a shift, not just in their dynamic, but within himself. He was releasing years of pent-up frustration and regret. With a deep breath, he continued, "I want to understand your world, not just as your father, but as someone who admires your brilliance. It's time I ask you what you need from me." Mia's eyes widened with surprise, her initial shock giving way to cautious hope. "Really? You mean that?" "Yes," he affirmed, the words flowing more confidently now. "I've missed so much. But I'm ready to change that. I need to learn from you as much as you can learn from me." Jordan felt a rush of warmth envelop him, the ice between them thawing inch by inch. Clarity emerged in their exchange, as if the years of neglect had suddenly formed a bridge instead of a divide. Their connection began to replace the uncertainty that had once governed their relationship. Yet as they spoke, the shadows of corporate responsibility loomed large in his mind. He was still the CEO of a major company, and with that title came burdens he couldn't ignore. The thought struck him: was he prepared to face the opposition that would undoubtedly arise from those who would view his prioritization of family as a sign of weakness? Just as a smile broke across Mia's face, a notification pinged on Jordan's phone. He glanced at it, and the color drained from his face. A major investor was calling an emergency meeting that could jeopardize everything he had worked for. The storm within him surged again, a battle not only within the walls of his family, but now escalating into the heart of his professional obligations. He faced Mia, torn between an emerging sense of purpose and the relentless demands of his career. The emotional stalemate returned, deepening the chasm of complexity. Could he manage both worlds? In that moment, a harsh reality hit Jordan. Prioritizing one would mean making sacrifices in another. The path forward loomed ahead, darker than he had expected, though the flame of determination smoldered brightly within him. How would he navigate this precarious balance between his daughter's needs and his company's demands? The time had come to face the reality he had long avoided. He had to choose, and his decision would define not only his relationship with Mia but also his legacy in the world of business. Jordan's heart raced as he turned back to Mia, the mixing emotions wrestling for dominance. The urgency of the investor meeting weighed heavily against the fragile rekindling of their connection. "Mia, He caught himself, unable to articulate the storm of conflicting priorities that churned inside him. The business world was demanding and relentless, often dismissing personal concerns as weaknesses. Yet here, with Mia, he sensed he might have a chance to mend something broken, to cultivate a relationship that had long been starved of attention. "Dad, it's okay," Mia said softly, stepping closer and peering into his eyes. "What is more important right now?" Her question pierced through the chaos in his mind. Instinctively, he felt the urge to lean into his role as a father, to reassure her of his commitment. But the dual responsibilities of a parent and a CEO clashed violently within him. "You don't understand. This meeting could determine our future." "But you said you want to be here for me," she countered, her voice unwavering. "You've got to be here for yourself too. You can't just let them run your life." "What about your life?" Her words struck a nerve, provoking a realization that had simmered beneath the surface. Jordan had placed the company's interests above his own well-being and familial bonds, drowning any notion of self. His ego, driven by corporate success, was beginning to seem like a fragile facade. This moment of vulnerability became a revelation. He was not just a failing father, but a man who had lost himself in the pursuit of success. "I've never wanted to live in a world where I'm just a CEO," he admitted, bitterness lacing his tone. "I want to be more than that. But the stakes are high, and I feel cornered. I don't want to fail at this, not again." "What defines failure?" Mia asked, tilting her head thoughtfully. "Is it not being the best at your job, or is it losing sight of everyone else along the way?" Jordan held her gaze, awed and inspired. In that moment, he became acutely aware of her growth, how her wisdom transcended the years they had spent disconnected. He was surprised to find a newfound respect for her perspective, amplifying the resolve swelling inside him. Perhaps he had overlooked a formidable ally in a world where he had felt so isolated. "I need to learn from you, Mia," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your insights, your vision, it could change everything for me. Together, we could redefine success, and maybe I won't have to abandon my role as a father in the process." A glimmer of hope sparkled in her eyes. "Yes. Let us do this together, please," Mia explained, enthusiasm skyrocketing. But what?" Mia hesitated, the excitement dampening slightly. "But I need to know that you'll take me seriously, that it won't just be a temporary thing while the company is stable or when it's convenient for you. You have to promise me this." "I'm not making empty promises anymore," he declared firmly, the gravity of their interaction grounding him. "This time it's real. I will prioritize both you and the company. It's time to break the cycle." Just then, a final notification pinged from his phone, echoing ominously in the tense silence. The tone made Jordan's stomach sink, a reminder of the impending investor meeting. As he glanced at it, doubt settled like a fog over his newfound commitment to change. Could he really balance both spheres? The question loomed over him, its weight pressing down hard. He wondered if Mia's optimism was misplaced. Would the board accept his attempts to meld his personal and professional lives? "Mia, but before he could finish, her expression shifted to something more serious, her brow furrowing. "Dad," she explained, concern etching her features. "What is wrong? You look pale." The image of the board members flashed in his mind, their skeptical faces, and he thought again of the meeting. If he walked away now, could he truly reclaim what mattered most? Just as he opened his mouth to confess his doubts, Mia interrupted. "What if I helped you prepare for the meeting? I know Mandarin. I can assist with any translations or strategies you'd never considered. I've been studying the new markets. They could be crucial." A flicker of admiration ignited in him, but was quickly followed by the realization that this could complicate things further. "It's a bold step, and it might just work," he mused, a tentative hope intertwining with his fear. Could his daughter be the bridge that fused both his worlds? "Let us embrace this challenge," she urged, filled with determination. Jordan took a deep breath, the weight of the decision heavy in his chest as he grappled with the enormity of their next steps. Could integrating Mia into his business world fortify their bond or unravel it altogether? Only time would tell. But as he looked into her eyes, he felt the spark of possibility. Uncertainty coiled in him yet again, this time tinged with excitement. A decision loomed, ready to test the depth of their commitment to one another and to their evolving paths. The line between success and sacrifice blurred, and Jordan's next move could tip the balance. How would their partnership thrive against the daunting tides of corporate expectation? Jordan's mind raced as he absorbed Mia's proposal. The idea of having her on board felt like a double-edged sword. On one hand, her eagerness reflected the bond's potential. On the other, he felt unprepared for the implications of mixing familial ties with corporate responsibilities. His instincts screamed for caution. Business could sever relationships if handled poorly. Mia, it's not just about the languages. The stakes are enormous, he finally replied, his voice steadying. If you apply your insights, there's a risk. We're not merely partnering on a project. It's our reputations at stake. But what if this could actually bridge our worlds? She countered, her passion igniting the discussion once again. I've seen the market shift firsthand, and they're interested in fresh perspectives. You've built a strong company. Now it's time to build strong relationships. Don't underestimate how far integrity and authenticity can go. Jordan felt his perspective shift as he watched her. Mia wasn't just a daughter. She was a formidable intellect unafraid to challenge him. Each word carried weight, urging him to confront his fears of failure and vulnerability. He realized he had underestimated the value she could bring, not just in terms of business acumen, but also in revitalizing his confidence. What did you have in mind? He inquired, a new sense of curiosity piquing within him. She moved to a nearby table littered with papers, and opened a folder filled with her research. Here's what I've found. Emerging markets in China are ripe for investment, especially in tech innovations. Our competitors have barely scratched the surface by not considering cultural nuances. You understand figures. What is different here is we need to appeal to their values, their way of communication. As she pointed to a graph showcasing projected growth, something shifted in him. It was more than just a meeting and presentation. They were about to rewrite their story. Do you see this? She asked, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. If we lead with empathy and intelligence rather than just numbers, the investors will notice. They want to feel connected to us, to what we represent. They won't just be buying into the projections. They'll be investing in an idea. There was a competitor edge to her enthusiasm that ignited something in Jordan. He had always viewed the financial world as a game of numbers and graphs, but here she was, dismantling his old constructs. An emotion stirred within him, pride mingled with fear. Could he entrust her with something this significant? You're right, Mia, he reluctantly acknowledged, but doubt echoed in his mind. Could he let go of the reins enough to allow their collaboration to take on its own shape? The tension hung palpable in the air, the weight of his legacy resting upon their partnership. Before he could fully process this, Mia continued, let's rehearse. You've got the presentation down, but we need to practice weaving in the emotional elements. It's not just business, it's personal too. He agreed, a sense of urgency shifting between them as they navigated the presentation's structure. With each strategy review, Jordan felt the walls he had built around his personal barriers beginning to crumble. Mia offered him insights into his own presentation style, redefining how he approached not just this meeting but his leadership. Listen, she urged at one point, the way you present can mirror how you communicate with me. When you speak from the heart, it resonates. You need to own your hesitations, your fears not as weaknesses, but as strengths. Her words sparked a revelation in him. The path to success was not about maintaining a polished facade, but about owning his journey. Could embracing vulnerability, the very aspect he had worked tirelessly to suppress, transform his approach to this meeting? The hours flew by, their dialogue between father and daughter transforming into a collaborative effort that redefined both their roles. However, as the meeting drew closer, anxiety began to creep in, whispering doubts. What if their combined efforts fell short of expectations? Could Jordan truly balance this newfound bond with the corporate expectations weighing down on him? As he prepared to gather his thoughts again, a notification pinged on his phone once more, triggering a jolt of anxiety. The meeting was imminent, and he needed to solidify their plan. "Are you ready?" Mia asked, her gaze steady, glistening with determination that mirrored his own uncertainty. Jordan exhaled sharply. The decision that lay ahead felt monumental. He sensed the ambitious expectations swirling around them. The moment arrived to face the board and investors, but a question lingered in his mind. As he stood there, leaning into the uncertainties with Mia at his side, would this be the catalyst that defined their relationship and his professional life, or would it unravel under the spotlight? Together, they navigated the currents of ambition and personal connection, but the pressure was mounting. The moment of truth was upon them, and outcomes were yet unknown. The boardroom felt cavernous, the polished wood reflecting fluorescent light like an unforgiving mirror. Jordan surveyed the room, his pulse quickening. The investor panel was a mix of seasoned professionals, each face frozen in an expression of skepticism or ambition, all waiting for him to unravel his strategy. Mia stood beside him, her presence grounding yet electrifying. As they began the presentation, an unsettling tension swelled among the group. Jordan's voice faltered at times, the weight of expectations hanging heavily over him. Conceptual shifts and business projections rolled off his tongue, but every figure felt like an incomplete picture. He glanced at Mia, who nodded with unshakable confidence, her eyes encouraging him to embrace the moment. Then came the pivot. Mia's cue signaled the transition, a critical moment to infuse heart into the presentation. An unexpected surge within him propelled him to speak more honestly, to reveal the hesitation that simmered beneath his confident exterior. "I need to admit," he began, feeling the vulnerability ripple through his chest. "This project represents more than just numbers to me. It's about legacy, about building partnerships that echo authenticity back in return. We are betting on our vision more than we ever have before." He noted the change in the room, a small yet significant nod of understanding from one of the investors, a softening of distant expressions around the table. They were not just numbers on a spreadsheet, but human connections, yearning for engagement and trust. Just as he started to feel this subtle shift, Mia stepped forward, clear and composed. "I want to share something crucial," she said in Mandarin, her voice steady against the backdrop of Jordan's rattled breath. The investors, caught off guard, leaned in as she explained how cultural sensibilities would inform their approach, keywords resonating: respect, harmony, community. In that moment, Jordan watched as she deftly reoriented their message, framing it within a context that transcended spreadsheets and financial jargon. A bead of sweat trickled down Jordan's temple as he realized the impact of her words of vulnerability that cut through the static of boardroom tension. It was an insight he wished he could express, but there she was, turning ideas into a dialogue that seemed to make the entire room breathe again. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. It felt like a breakthrough, an awakening. Analysts were scribbling notes, and investors' eyes now sparkled with a sense of possibility. They had shifted from a projection to a shared vision, and for a flicker of time, Jordan felt the reins loosen. He was no longer alone in this arena. However, the exhilaration was short-lived. As applause subsided, an investor known for being exceptionally critical leaned forward, eyes sharp like knives. "This is all very well, but can you guarantee that based on mere emotional appeal? Data speaks first here." Jordan felt a rush of anxiety. The foundations of their progress seemed to tremble. He locked eyes with Mia, an unspoken connection passing between them: confusion, fear, determination. "We can't guarantee emotional ROI only," he interjected cautiously. But I can assure you that what we've presented today is aligned with global market trends that are evolving into a heart-centered economy. Just as Mia articulated so beautifully, investing isn't solely about the numbers. It's about nurturing connections, real relationships that drive us forward. The investor remained unconvinced, reflecting skepticism, and Jordan faltered under his gaze. What if this newfound approach, this blending of personal connection with professional ambition, unraveled in the heat of scrutiny? As the meeting dragged, returning to crisp spreadsheets and figures, the urgency began to build within him. Had Mia's insight truly redefined their impact in the financial conversation, or had they merely invited ridicule masked as concern? He glanced at Mia once more, her expression resolute, but he sensed an undercurrent of anxiety beneath it. With a final question looming, the words slipped like sand through his fingers. How do we respond when emotions turn back into cold, hard numbers? The room buzzed with uncertainty, the weight of that question heavy on his chest. As he awaited their feedback, dread began to settle in the pit of his stomach. Was this collaborative effort destined for greatness, or was it merely a balancing act on the precipice of disaster? Behind him, the investors deliberated. The moment was rife with possibility, yet the outcome remained shrouded in tension, the impending verdict looming over them like dark clouds. The true test of their combined daring was about to unfold. What lay ahead could either fortify their bond or test them beyond measure. In the silence following that last weighty question, an invisible current flowed through the room. Jordan's heart thumped like a dissonant drumbeat in his chest as he absorbed the palpable tension. Each investor held the power to propel them forward or push them into oblivion, and the precarious balance of emotional insight mingled with staunch skepticism stood before him starkly. As he stared at the boardroom table, strewn with documents that bore the weight of their hopes, Jordan felt the burden of leadership bearing down on him. This moment, charged with uncertainty, pulled at his resolve. Had he come too far in merging heartfelt conviction with cold calculations? In that instant, he wrestled with his internal narrative. The doubts gnawed at him, whispering threats of failure. Mia's presence remained a constant. Her calm yet fierce demeanor emanated strength, but even she appeared to be bracing against the rising tide of scrutiny. Jordan grasped at the thin thread of confidence that had been woven through their collaboration, recalling how it thrived on openness and trust. He needed to summon it again. It's not just numbers, he projected, his voice steady but imbued with urgency. This asks more from us than an analytical mindset. Investors thrive on relationships, driven by vision in synergy with data. The intent behind his words surged forth, a grab for unity amidst disjointed opinions. He needed to believe it to convince them. Just as he spoke, one of the investors, a woman with a sharp gaze that belied her age, interjected, "But will shareholders embrace a philosophy rooted in sincerity rather than tried and true data?" Her challenge hit him like a jolt, and he plunged deeper into his introspection, scrutinizing the raw truth of his own dreams interwoven with this venture. Could he really overcome the rigid pragmatism of the investor mindset with a plea for authenticity? In that moment, a revelation flickered into consciousness. He recalled his father's lessons about resilience and commitment, words that had once felt like echoes in a distant past. He realized that the essence of his journey was molded by risks taken in hope rather than fear. This was a moment to draw from the confidence fostered throughout his experiences rather than retreat into doubt. Suddenly, the air shifted. Another investor, a younger man with a tech-savvy edge, leaned back, crossing his arms thoughtfully. "What you have is compelling, but how do we tangibly measure our return?" The words struck a chord, igniting the burning question that circulated in Jordan's mind. Could he substantiate their proposed emotional approach without dismissing the critical importance of numbers? It was not an either/or scenario. It could be an and. "Perhaps our metrics need reinterpreting," he proposed, gesturing broadly as he formulated his thoughts. "What if we track engagement not merely as numerical values, but also as meaningful connections formed. Each partnership can offer insight into the pulse of cultural resonance among our audience. It is data, yes, just different data. Jordan felt a renewed vigor rush through him. He was on the inference brink of synthesis, reshaping the dialogue to fuse emotional strategy and analytical rigor. This idea seized his attention, illuminating unexpected pathways through the murky waters of doubt. But with his burgeoning hope came a stark realization. Courage must accompany clarity. He had to confront a lingering question: could he bring Mia along as a leader in this paradigm shift? As he glanced at her, seeking affirmation, their eyes locked, sparking unspoken possibilities. Then Jordan noticed the initial investor's smirk transform into an inquisitive tilt of the brow. That flicker made him pause. In the geography of his growing resolution, he felt the contours of a pivotal decision, not just about this presentation, but about the direction of his leadership. With the room's energy shifting yet again, an internal alert sounded. The boardroom had transformed into a battleground, where courage collided with reason, and the outcome remained a fragile balance of trust and determination. Just then, an unexpected ringing sliced through the tension Mia's phone. She slipped it from her pocket, and with a furrowed brow, she glanced at the screen, her expression shifting. The smile faded. This could bring further complication to their already tumultuous discussion. Jordan caught her eye, sensing the storm brewing just as he prepared to continue. What now? He wondered, apprehension creeping back in. Before he could dive deeper, Mia's features hardened, a flash of fear etched her face, a storm that could dismantle the very fragile foundation they were building. What had she seen, and how would it alter their fragile momentum? The boardroom they stood in felt suddenly smaller, and the stakes impossibly higher. What further revelations awaited, and how would they confront this new challenge together? In the silence that followed her abrupt reaction, Jordan's pulse quickened. The investors, once captivated, now appeared strained, their gazes flitting between him and Mia, uncertainty marking their faces. What had she seen? The urgency of the moment pressed upon him, amplifying the stakes, and the air thickened with anticipation. Mia, he murmured, his voice low, though it felt unsteady to his ears. What is it? She briefly broke eye contact, focusing intently on the phone screen, then steeled herself, as if to brace against a wave. When she finally spoke, her voice was a mixture of resolve and anxiety. It's my dad. He's in the hospital. I just got a call from my mom. The room tilted slightly, and the entire weight of the previous conversation unraveled. It was as if his foundation, the confidence he had been rediscovering, was swept away by the tide of concern for her family. Jordan reached instinctively across the table, his hand hovering for a moment before he placed it on hers, the warmth of support a stark contrast to the cool tension surrounding them. Before she could withdraw, he glanced at the investors. We need a moment, he said, his voice firm yet empathetic. The sharp-eyed woman from earlier nodded, her expression softening as she motioned for the others to step out. Once they were alone, Jordan turned to Mia. I'm so sorry. Do you want to go? She hesitated, anxiety swirling in her gaze. I want to be here. But I also can't think clearly. No, he replied, his instincts pushing him forward. Your family comes first. Go to them. I'll handle this. The conviction in his own voice surprised him. It signaled a determination coursing through him, a commitment that transcended the boardroom and ventured into a deeper support tethered to their shared journeys. Mia contemplated his words, searching for reassurance. But the presentation, I need to do this with you. Mia, we've built this together, but you can't leave your family at this moment. Trust your instinct. It's just as critical as any strategy we've developed. The sincerity of his own tone brought clarity. Maybe he wasn't merely acting as a professional here, but also as a partner bearing witness to her struggles. That moment, Jordan felt a shift within himself. He grasped that leadership was not solely about navigating the business landscape. It encompassed compassion and understanding of life as unpredictable rhythm. Helping Mia could reinforce the foundation of trust they had laid. His investment in her well-being could mirror what he had asked of the investor's relationship first, numbers later. Mia's features softened, and he could see the flicker of gratitude in her eyes. "Okay. I'll go," she replied, eyes shimmering with emotion. "But promise me you won't let this all collapse without me." "I won't. We'll keep this vision alive." A newfound resolve crystallized in Jordan's mind. He understood this was a defining moment not just for the meeting ahead, but also for his own evolution as a leader, capable of empathy without sacrificing ambition. Mia stepped back, taking a breath before she resolved to leave. Jordan watched her go, one foot in the present, and the other already racing toward an uncertain future. Alone in the boardroom, he felt a surge of both vulnerability and strength, the balancing act of emerging as a leader. Suddenly, with the room quiet and the stakes higher than before, Jordan recognized the profound responsibility upon him. He had to craft the narrative that could unify the remaining investors without the emotional anchor of Mia by his side. As he glanced at the papers scattered across the table, he realized that the metrics he had proposed to measure relationships, emotional engagement, and now, his own leadership would serve as his guiding light in the uncharted waters ahead. But this situation required more than just innovative thinking. He had to summon an unwavering presence, transcending mere numbers into authentic connection. The moment felt fragile as he understood the extent of the challenge now before him. He realized he must not only delineate the path forward for the business, but also honor the trust Mia had placed in him. With a deep breath and the weight of new clarity, he was ready to face the investors, prepared to articulate the rebirth of their vision, one built on commitment to both data and the human spirit. Yet, beneath the surface of his renewed confidence, a seed of doubt nestled quietly. Could he truly stand alone in the storm without her support? The threshold of this pivotal moment, where the weight of a partnership met the isolating realm of ambition, held profound implications for both his leadership and personal growth. As he gathered his thoughts, the boardroom door creaked open, revealing the investors lurking just outside. With a steely resolve, he approached the threshold between resilience and vulnerability, ready to manage the fallout of his personal evolution. But what awaited him on the other side? Would he be able to convey the strength of their vision? Or would the unanswered questions of the day lead to new fractures in their alliance? Jordan stood at the edge of a new precipice as he absorbed the weight of Mia's absence. The boardroom, once a sanctuary pulsating with shared ambitions, now felt like a void, echoing his doubts. He had to step beyond the threshold of his own uncertainty and make a compelling case to the investors. The seconds stretched into what felt like hours, amplifying the tension he felt inside. "Showtime," he muttered. The reality of the moment pulled him in, igniting a determination to ensure that Mia's absence was not a liability, but an opportunity. He adjusted his tie, smoothing his hands over the table in a show of composure, then straightened up just as the investors re-entered. Their expressions varied from curiosity to skepticism, and Jordan could feel the gravity of their expectations caressing his skin like the electric jolt of anticipation that came before a big performance. "Thank you for your patience," he began, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within him. "I regret to say that Mia cannot join us today due to a family emergency. Still, the vision we've built together remains intact." He gauged their reactions, the silent calculations behind their eyes, wondering if they would sense the underlying current of his resolve. As he spoke about the projections and metrics, he intentionally infused his words with the personal narrative that anchored their partnership, the late nights brainstorming strategies, the shared laughter, and even the disagreements that had ultimately strengthened their proposal. He articulated the essence of what they represented, not just numbers, but a team that valued connection, resilience, and mutual growth. Yet, Despite his best efforts, doubt flickered at the edges of his thoughts. What if his vision without Mia's insight lacked depth? What if the emotional thread she wove into their presentation unraveled in her absence? He felt the room shift under the weight of his worry, but he clenched his fists, channeling that fear into clarity. "You know," he continued, leaning slightly forward, "we might just need a little bit of foresight and courage to weather this storm. We've anticipated challenges, and we're ready to pivot." He emphasized the word pivot, knowing that adaptability had been the bedrock of their strategy. His heart raced as the investors, seemingly captivated, began to nod slowly in agreement. This was not just a presentation anymore, this was a moment of discovery for him. Jordan realized he could articulate their vision fiercely and authentically, whether Mia was by his side or not. He had internalized their shared knowledge, and in doing so, found a voice that resonated deeper than expected. As the discussion turned more technical, he felt his confidence rise. He navigated through projections, answering questions with more poise than he felt, and even managed to communicate their emotional appeal through data-driven narratives. It was in the interplay between data and human engagement that he discovered a newfound capability, the ability to lead not just from the front but by inspiring belief in a larger story. By the time he reached the end of his presentation, Jordan found the energy in the room had shifted, transforming their earlier doubt into intrigue and potential excitement. But as he concluded, there remained an unanswered question lingering like a specter. Would they believe that without Mia's presence, the vision was still as strong? "Thank you for your attention," Jordan said, trying to keep the buoyancy in his tone, but feeling the resonances of unspoken concern seep back into his consciousness. As the investors opened the floor for questions, he braced himself. Another challenge was incoming, and it threatened to test everything he had just achieved. "Jordan," the sharp-eyed woman spoke again, her expression unreadable. "While you've articulated a compelling vision today, can you tell us how you plan to address Mia's absence in the long run?" The weight of her question crashed over him like a wave. How would he navigate the prospect of continuing without her, without their partnership? Suddenly, the ground beneath him felt unstable, stirring the very essence of what he had built. Jordan inhaled deeply as he positioned himself for what lay ahead, battling against the impulse to falter. He could feel the push of growth pressing against the walls of his perception, urging him to confront this dilemma head-on. Transforming this challenge into a stepping stone was imperative, not only for the investors, but for himself. In that fleeting moment, he understood that personal evolution occurred through engagement with conflict. His journey navigating the tangled interplay of ambition and vulnerability was a story still unraveling, and he could either neurotically cling to the past or redefine what the future could hold. But how would he ensure that the very essence of their collaborative spirit remained? The answer teetered on the edge of his thoughts, waiting to be unlocked. And so, as the question hung in the air, Jordan prepared to navigate yet another turning point, aware that whatever path he chose could either deepen the investors' trust or fracture the fragile alliance. The moment to redefine everything had come, yet uncertainty unfurled like shadows around him. Jordan's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the sharp-eyed woman, her question reverberating like a lingering echo in the silence of the room. How could he condense their collaborative spirit into something tangible without Mia? It felt like trying to recall a melody, if one could only remember the lyrics. "I plan to address Mia's absence by ensuring we have the right systems in place," he began, holding her gaze firmly. "Our team is more than just two individuals. We have built a culture that fosters innovation, collaboration, and accountability. If anything, this challenge will reinforce our commitment to adaptability." As he spoke, a sense of clarity began to break through the fog of his uncertainty. A deep breath flushed through him, filling his lungs with purpose. He could pivot not just in strategy, but in the very narrative he was weaving. "It's important for us to include not only our individual strengths, but to also draw on the full talents of the team. This fosters creativity, and ensures we continue to thrive in unexpected situations. He could see the investor's eyebrows rise slightly, a flicker of intrigue dancing across the harsh lines of skepticism. Jordan leaned into this newfound energy, channeling it as a conduit for his thoughts. We are currently assembling a rotating leadership committee within our advisory team, one designed to bring various perspectives into our decision-making processes. Our goal is to create a cohesive strategy that reflects the depth of our collaboration. Mia's contributions will always be part of our blueprint, but we're also committed to building upon that foundation with diverse input. Questions buzzed in the air, but Jordan pressed on, not ready to relinquish his momentum. The anxiety that once paralyzed him transformed into an electric charge steering his narrative. I've learned that while relationships can define success, structure can sustain it. Mia and I have often talked about growth and succession planning. Our absence doesn't weaken our vision. It allows us to demonstrate resilience. The room's atmosphere shifted noticeably, and Jordan sensed a wave of acceptance washing over the investors. They were no longer contemplating a broken partnership. Instead, they were grappling with the enormity of the opportunity that lay before them. Suddenly, a hand shot up. It was a younger investor, poised with curiosity rather than skepticism. But what if Mia's insights brought a unique perspective that can't be easily replaced? How do you quantify that? Jordan felt the gravity of the question. It struck at the heart of his fear, a reminder that while he had justified the operational changes, Mia's intuition was irreplaceable. He hesitated, grappling with the stark reality. Could he truly embody the depths of her role? I can't quantify her insights, and to be honest, I won't try to. What I can do is honor what she contributed by fostering an environment that encourages each voice to be heard, he articulated, each word emerging with newfound confidence. We can invite her into our sessions whenever she is available, leveraging technology to remain aligned. It's about creating a bridge rather than a barrier. If faced with challenges in the future, I do want to know that the spirit of our partnership endures to inspire those around us regardless of the distance. The tension shifted again, morphing into a palpable sense of urgency. They were beginning to understand that this wouldn't just be about filling a gap, but rather evolving the vision they held together. Jordan could feel a spark ignite within him, a realization that he had the capacity to lead through the intricate web of uncertainty. As the questions continued to flow, he found himself diverging from the scripted path he'd envisioned, embracing the chaos of dialogue with vigor. Each moment of uncertainty he navigated increased his self-assurance. With every question, he was forging a new identity, one that bore the indelible mark of conflict and growth. When the session concluded, applause rippled through the boardroom, seemingly genuine and empowering. Yet as the room began to dissipate, the weight of his thoughts settled in again. Had he truly managed to redefine their future? Or would Mia's absence forever leave a void he couldn't fill? Stepping outside into the bright light, he felt the warmth of possibility on his skin while questioning the commitment he needed to enhance in their operations. He could sense the path ahead was brimming with further challenges ripe for exploration, a road not just marked by competition, but towards personal transformation. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a message popping up from Mia. It simply read, "How did it go?" He stared at the screen, pondering the nuances of what the day had revealed not just to the investors, but to himself. With a quick flick of his thumb, he started typing, feeling the words flow as if he were uncovering a secret about himself he hadn't fully realized until now. "I held my ground. But I need to talk to you about how we continue to grow together or apart." As he watched the message soar into cyberspace, the shimmer of something profound lingered in his chest. How would he navigate this evolving landscape without losing the touch he had shared with Mia? Considering this, he realized there was so much more to uncover. And so, as uncertainty danced just beyond the horizon, Jordan steeled himself for the revelations to come, aware that evolution demanded he boldly face the unknown. Weeks passed since the pivotal meeting, and with every passing day, Jordan felt himself transforming as he leaned into vulnerability and collaboration. The quiet hum of his office was now shared with newfound resolve and context. Mia's insights, once a whisper nestled beneath corporate jargon, became guiding principles for his leadership journey. He discarded rigid definitions of success, blurring the lines between numbers and heart, purpose and profit. Jordan's commitment to growth resonated deep within him. He requested regular updates and included Mia in strategic meetings, letting her voice echo not just through the walls of their collaboration but also with the board. This decision fostered trust, and investors began appreciating the authenticity behind every figure and forecast. They were no longer just another entity, but partners connected by a story and a vision. Each significant investment discussion now came alive with Mia's unique perspectives, transcending mere financial discussions encapsulated by cold data. Insights on cultural sensitivities dominated the agenda alongside revenue projections, creating a fabric woven through intentionality. Their partnership flourished, no longer shackled by fear of vulnerability or uncertainty, but exhilarated by the open dialogue that ignited growth for both them and the company. During one meeting, Mia presented the market analysis of their new line of products in China, passionately discussing the importance of psychological marketing tailored to various demographics. She illuminated how empathy could cultivate customer allegiance, transforming transaction into relationship. Jordan watched her command the room, and within him, pride intertwined with relief. The words spoken wasn't just about business, but expressed years of longing for recognition. Here was Mia, no longer waiting on the sidelines, but actively shaped and reshaping their world. A few months later, external validation came in the form of accolades. Their company won a prestigious award for innovation in cross-cultural engagement, a testament to the growth journey. Jordan stood at the forefront, but rather than oversee the recognition alone, he pulled Mia into the spotlight beside him. "This isn't just my victory," he declared, warmth cascading in his voice. "This collaborative spirit bears fruit because we are willing to listen to each other." The applause that followed felt like a symphony of affirmation, restoring balance and dignity not only for him and Mia but also for the unwavering truth that personal fulfillment evolved within interconnectedness. In that moment, Jordan felt authentic achievement, not measured merely against revenue, but against an enduring legacy of collaboration. The transformation within him became evident. He embraced the vulnerability tied to risk, learned to navigate the immensity of trust, and wove these threads into the company ethos. The pressure of corporate success no longer loomed ominously over personal bonds. Instead, they formed a new cornerstone. The notion of leadership morphed entirely. It was not solely about profit margins and revenue projections. It was a tapestry built on emotional currency and respect for individual narratives. Renowned business platforms began to notice Jordan's evolution, inviting him to share his insights about merging emotional intelligence with corporate strategy. He stood in front of crowds, embodying confidence cultivated through genuine growth. His voice had shifted, commanding yet inviting engagement became both his tool and inspiration. In parallel, he made it a priority to attend Mia's events, her passions blooming into full view, whether it was school plays or language competitions. These moments were not just about involvement. They marked a definitive shift in how he prioritized his role as a father. Mia blossomed under the affirmation and connection he offered, her laughter now harmonizing with the vision he carried for both business and family. One evening, they sat together, delineating a future strategy that encompassed their diverse insights. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the conference room where they worked, it struck him how hard-won redemption and equitable recognition forged this relationship. "Mia," he said, breaking into her analysis, "thank you for being my partner in this transformation. I am proud of what we've built together." Jordan felt the warmth of gratitude seep into him, solidifying the trust they had fostered over time. This moment held the essence of true success, conversational exchanges blossoming into a richer narrative. They were crafting legacies woven through courage, depth, and emotional resonance, unveiling a power that transformed everything it touched. As they inked the final notes of the strategy together, Jordan knew he had accomplished what once felt insurmountable. He had changed, grown, and finally embraced the beauty of balanced leadership, both at the helm of a burgeoning company and at the heart of an invaluable relationship. Not only had he reconciled the weight of corporate ambition with familial love, but he had also transformed into a man who wielded confidence in vulnerability, creating a legacy alive with connection and promise for future generations. His journey encapsulated profound fulfillment, not only in the accolades won, but in the relationships healed and nurtured. As he left the conference room that evening, a sense of purpose surged within him, ready to embrace whatever came next with resilience, openness, and love. Now, do not let this journey end here. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.